Now that you are familiar with the 4 single case designs that the WWC currently has standards for reviewing, as well as the guidance for reviewing novel designs, it is time to discuss the WWC's eligibility requirements for single case designs. To be eligible for the WWC review as a single case design, the study must meet 3 requirements. The first requirement is that the individual case is the unit of intervention administration and data analysis. Usually a case is an individual participant, such as an individual student or an individual teacher, but sometimes a case may represent a cluster of participants, such as a classroom or school. The second requirement is that within the design, the case can provide its own control for the purpose of comparison. For example, the case's series of outcomes prior to the intervention is compared with the series of outcomes during and after receiving the intervention. The third requirement is that the outcome variable is measured repeatedly within and across different conditions or levels of the independent variable. If necessary, take a moment to review these requirements alongside the earlier portion of the training to ensure that you understand the eligibility requirements for single case designs. The remainder of this training will check your understanding of the single case design eligibility requirements. Time for your first knowledge check in this module. A study assesses the effect of a behavioral intervention on 6 students. The interventionist begins to collect repeated measurement data after the onset of the intervention to assess whether problem behaviors of each individual student reach a target level. The interventionist determines that the intervention is a success for an individual student after they display low levels of problem behaviors for 3 consecutive observation sessions. Your choices are: this study is eligible for WWC review as a single case design. This study is not eligible for WWC review under the single case design standards. You may want to pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. Although the individual participants in this design were the unit of intervention administration and analysis, the researcher only collected data after the intervention had been applied. Because the researcher never returns to the pre-intervention condition, each unit cannot serve as their own control, because the outcome variable was not measured repeatedly across both conditions or levels of the independent variable, namely, across the baseline and intervention conditions. Therefore, the study would not be eligible for review under the WWC single case design standards. Knowledge Check 2. A study uses an AB-AB treatment reversal design to assess the effects of the good behavior game intervention for preventing disruptive behavior among second-grade students. The interventionist collects repeated measurement data on disruptive behavior for 6 students, with data collected for each student during 2 baseline phases and 2 intervention phases. The study authors use individual participants as the unit for all data analyses. Your choices are: this study is eligible for WWC review as a single case design. This study is not eligible for WWC review under the SCD standards. You may want to pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. In this study, each case was the unit of intervention administration and data analysis. Each of the 6 students can serve as their own control for the purposes of comparison, and the outcome variable is measured repeatedly before and after the onset of intervention. Therefore, the study is eligible for WWC review as a single case design. This concludes our module on single case designs. Let's review what we discussed in this module. We described the single case design. We discussed common single case design variations used in the educational research literature. And finally, we described the criteria used to assess whether a study is eligible for What Works Clearinghouse review as a single case design. The next module in the training series will focus on outcome measures and confounding factors when reviewing single case designs.